Hetapu, assalamu alaikum, namaste, haru nefer. This is Kisak Ma Keparu with another video for you. In this video, we're going to be getting into the covert weaponizing of Black women. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. We do have free ebooks for you. So if you're interested in learning more on my spiritual teachings, scroll down below, click on the links, and you can download those ebooks and start reading right away. If you want to follow that down the rabbit hole and become a Patreon supporter, you can do so for as little as $1, $5, or $20 per month. You get exclusive access to instructional videos on how to meditate, how to summon spirits, how to work with ergobores, how to work with the oracles. So much information. So become a Patreon supporter today. Last but not least, this doesn't work if you don't share this video with family and friends so we can get the word out there and change the vibrational frequency of the planet. See, we understand that we're not going to affect change through political means, through not necessarily economic means, but we are looking for a vibrational shift to move to a different reality, one that is more harmonious, loving, and conducive to life on this planet. Thank you. So, Haroon Nefer, let's get into this subject matter, which is going to be a very interesting subject matter. And I want to talk to you about controlled opposition. Now, we're dealing with a very clever, and I hate to use this term, but to facilitate the conversation, we'll say enemy, because Osir teaches us in the story of Asar and Aset, or rather Haru teaches us that we really have no enemies because we're a consciousness, we're all one in 5D. So if you're one with all, you cannot oppose yourself. And the I-ching, the great Chinese oracle, the I-ching, that was written by many Chinese sages like Lao Tse, Confucius, or Confuce, teaches us that take neither gain nor loss to heart. So you're not supposed to go through life worried so much about what you've gained and what you've lost. Don't be overly enthusiastic or celebrating the victories. Just be at peace. Practice Medeb and Akad Ma'at. You know, and as it comes, you say, okay, great. As it goes, okay, great. Thus is life. This is where we get the idea of stoicism from, being stoic, not being emotionally reactive to everything that comes your way, because the ruling elite, the cabal, this is what they want. They want you to be the animal spirit, the sahu. They want you to be emotional because emotion overrides logic. It overrides the left brain. And we are supposed to be integrated brain thinkers. Now, these individuals, less than 1% of the population of the planet, are trying to corrupt and take control of the planet. And one of the things that their psyche is deeply embedded in is racism. They created racism. They are the authors and the architects of racism. And the way they did this, if you go back and watch my other videos, is through ergobores or pendulums. They created these thought viruses that would basically be injected into the collective consciousness of humanity and shift us from right brain, integrated brain thinkers into left brain, concrete thinkers. So we look more at the surface, superficial level of things, color, phenotype, without really getting back to what our ancestors said, that we are consciousness, just having an experience. So these individuals, these small group, created or constructed this ergobore called racism, which now is an entity, is a spirit, and it's looking to indoctrinate more people into it to become stronger and more powerful. That's what it does. And it's autonomous, it's acting on its own. You see, the ruling elite, the cabal, they are black hat magicians. They are black magicians, evil geniuses. You see, they were able to convince the world that voodoo Santeria, Ifa, all of these things, oracles, do not exist, that they're not legitimate. While behind closed doors, they're practicing their occult rituals and they're using their oracles and then communicating with interdimensional beings that can see into the future and give them predictions. But I digress. So they've created this virus that's infected the psyche of the planet, the collective consciousness, because we're all connected. This is the principle of Ma'at, interdependence and interrelationship between all things. We live in an ecosystem. No thing is independent of itself. There's no evolution, there's only adaptation, adapting to one's environment. So I want you to understand that as I set the course for where we're going to go with this conversation. You see, they don't want people of color on this planet. And they have their mind set on getting rid of people of color by hook or crook. And they're using, and this is the mistake that many people in the so-called civil rights revolutionary movement, black nationalists, whatever you want to call it, make the mistake. The ruling elite, the cabal, is using various different techniques, physical and metaphysical, for the extermination of people of color. They don't have one plan. They have a multiple plan. It is a 360 approach. You see, this is why they are evil geniuses. You understand that? So when you are, and I always equate this to the mythological Hydra. You cut off one head, it merely grows another head. And you keep fighting this Hydra and you don't win. You don't win. You've got to attack it at the source. So the ruling elite realized a long time ago that in order to win this war, to eradicate people of color from the planet, and make no mistake, they want to get rid of the masses of white people on the planet as well. And this is where a lot of people in the conspiracy theory arena go wrong. They don't understand that these people are of such evil origin. Now, I can go into the fact that they're genetically engineered not to feel empathy. They have no emotions, so they can wipe out, cause wars, masses of people commit genocide. They have no emotion or feeling for the death of millions of people. They don't feel anything. This is how they can get away with that. But you and I do that, it will eventually mess with our consciousness. But them, they've genetically engineered their DNA to rid themselves of that guilt, of that empathy. So they figured out a long time ago in their plan, and they do so through their think tank institutions, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Council on Foreign Relations, Tavistock, and they plan ahead 100, 150 years in advance on how to concoct their schemes, and they introduce it through society as cultural norms. And they shift the culture in certain directions so that you have the masses of people who will go along willingly. You see, they do what David I called the totalitarian tiptoe, meaning they can't show you their hand, but they show you one card and then another card. You see, you're slowly being introduced to something. Because if you were to understand the full totality of it, you would reject it. You would vomit it up. So they got to feed it to you in piecemeal in a 360-degree approach. And they figured out a long time ago that they would use women as a chief means to get to the men. See, when you can destroy men in a nation, in a society, you set that nation up for conquest. So they knew that they would have to use white women and black women for their nefarious purposes. So they got into their think tank institutions and concocted groups like feminism and things like that. And they knew that they had to get to women of color. Because if they can get to women of color and co-opt them and indoctrinate them into an ideology, they could win this. They could win this battle. And hence you have women like Margaret Sanger, Gloria Steinem, an agent working in the movement. Margaret Sanger setting up Planned Parenthood to reduce the birth rate in minority communities. And she would work through the churches. And who are a large population of the churches? Black women. And they needed to indoctrinate Black women into this ideology of feminism. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you're saying women should have equal rights, because we know historically in European culture, white women, were never seen as equal to white men. We know that was a problem in the Roman and Greek cultures. We know that, but that did not exist in African cultures and in Kemet. The first priests were priestesses, where you saw the king sitting, his queen was right next to him. But you can go and see the ancient statues of the Greek philosophers standing there naked with the little boys right next to them. But there's no women. Medusa was a beautiful woman, cursed, because they had a problem with they have a left brain problem. They don't know how to think in terms of complementary elements. But let me not get into that. So they set up these organizations and institutions to indoctrinate women into them and to use them into weaponizing them against their men, both Black and white. And they would do so using the media, using politics, using the education system. Every which way you turn, they had to introduce a new psychology. So when you had Black women in feminism, instead of looking at the problem, which is the patriarchy and the white established order, they told these Black women that your enemy is Black men. They're the ones that are oppressing you. They're the patriarchy, even though there's no patriarchy. And even though Black women were raped by white slave owners, Black women were put onto breeding farms on the plantation to give birth to light-skinned biracial babies, and they were never given the opportunity to inherit the land, to get monetary compensation for what was happening. But still, they were told the enemy is the Black man. They said, do not focus on righting the wrongs of what the white man did. Do not look at him as the oppressor. Look at your own man as the oppressor. And through the use of these metaphysical things, such as the ergivores, they got a lot of women indoctrinated into that thought process. Not all, a lot of women. And for no good reason, they set up these ancillary organizations, LGBTQ, Black feminist groups that would go and work politically and through the media to vilify Black men. That Black men were the cause of all their ills, what was going on with them. And this is why we'll see movements like Black Lives Matter, headed by feminists, supported by billionaires like George Soros, with even on their websites talking about destroying the nuclear family. Because in order to bring down a group of people, you've got to attack the males. And the reason why I'm addressing this is because the perfect example of this has been with the whole presidential race. We have seen this unfold with that. And Black people have walked toward the slaughterhouse happily because you're dealing with evil geniuses. You see, the Democratic Party stood up there on a platform and said, we want to thank Black women for getting Biden elected. And you notice they didn't say Black men. Because one of the things that they engage in is the old principle of divide and conquer. They had to create the gender war, which came next. And any exposing of Biden's record, but more specifically Kamala Harris's record, as being tough on black men, incarcerating black men, hiding evidence of black men who could have been freed. They said an attack on Kamala Harris, who is a Brahmin Indian woman, is an attack on all black women. What a wonderful mind fuck. A manipulation. And of course, it was a measure to deflect from Biden's 1994 crime bill of incarcerating black men, setting up the prison industrial complex. But this is not about politics, because I don't care which side you're on. It doesn't bother me. Because as a sayer, you should be impartial. You shouldn't be going toward one side or the other. This is about understanding that you are consciousness, have an experience. You're the all-seeing eye. You're just an observer. Don't get caught up in the movie. You see? What Margaret Sanger and Gloria Steinem was trying to do falls under the guise of eugenics, comes right out of Nazi Germany, which had a big occult history to it. And now that's only one aspect of their plan, and one aspect what they have been trying to do. Because the gender war is a perfect way to divide men and women, to keep them at odds with one another so that they can't come together as a unified force. You see, the black community could have made a lot of progress without the need of reparations. But continually, when they have tried to make progress, there has been outside intervention, you see. And I'm not just talking about Rosewood and things of that nature. I'm saying that when you have the two black men and black women working together and making progress in steps, the ruling elite with their covert plans, and pulling black women to the side and saying, you know what, he's part of the patriarchy, he's part of the problem. And then they interject LGBTQ, who says straight black men are the problem. And then when you have Ice Cube comes along and wants to put together a plan for all of Black America, then you have your little agents come out, part of the feminist agenda, and say, well, Ice Cube, did you include black women? Ice Cube says, yes, I did. It says all black people. No, you have to call out specifically black women. You see the attacks, the creating of the division. This is why when progress is being made, there's always some outside intervention to retard that progress, to pull us back. And then what we end up doing is we end up aligning with the very forces that are out to eliminate us from the planet. And some of the worst purveyors of this are black men that I have witnessed, who readily dance to their own destruction. Black men are out there as the mouthpieces of feminism. You see, the media purposely puts out propaganda. You see, you were prepared a year in advance. You see, Biden and Kamala Harris were already picked by the ruling elite. The vote was just all show. Kamala Harris is married to a white man. You had to be indoctrinated or mentally prepared to accept that fact. So what did they do? They worked with Madison Avenue advertising firms and commercial companies to put out TV commercials where you would consistently see black women with white men in these TV commercials. You would have you noticed in the last a year and a half or 2 years how there's been an influx of multiracial commercials, interracial commercials, swirling movement? Of course, they had to prepare you for Kamala Harris. And on the same note, vitriol, if a black man was dating a white woman, oh, he's a coon, he's a sellout. But a celebration for black women who were dating interracially. Meghan Markle, Kamala Harris, let's celebrate them. You go, black girl. Clarence Thomas, you coon. Let's expose all the black men in Hollywood who are dating white women. What's wrong? Calling these black men, oh, you hate your race, you hate yourself. While at the same time hiding the Planned Parenthood numbers showing that there is a high abortion rate going on in the black community, a very high abortion rate. But we don't want to look at that. Let's look at the coons, the Clarence Thomases, and all the black male Hollywood stars who are dating white women. But then we're going to celebrate Meghan Markle and Kamala Harris. Which is it? There's no balance there. And then we're going to proliferate. We're going to come out with all these commercials, the TV commercials with black women with white men, disrespecting the fact that, hey, why can't we have a loving black relationship between a black man and a black woman? Why can't we see that in the commercial? What's wrong with showing the black family in a commercial? No. See, they had to set the stage for the presidential race. And even though black men are incarcerated at extreme numbers, 700,000 or whatever the figure is, more black men in prison than there are women on prison on the face of the earth. But let's not talk about those numbers. You see? And then you start to see things in the media where they have an agenda. And this is an agenda with white women too. They start to promote white women more in movies. Same thing. And then we see the Batwoman, she's black. The new James Bond girl, she's black. And you think that this is organic, this is natural progress, but it's not. It is the devil's hand reaching in to assist you, to elevate you for a big fall, you see. What you think is progress is not a real victory. It's not honorable if it's given to you for a nefarious purpose, which is divide and conquer. And the trick that you have to do and pull off is to open your third eye, your ucha, so you can see through the plan. You can see through the agenda. And you can say, we're not falling for that. And you and black men have to do the same thing because you guys are running around mentally deranged in a way, promoting ideologies that oppose your very being. Because that's what they have to do. They have to effeminize men, specifically black men, because they're afraid of the black male masculinity. So you have black men walking and talking as white female feminists. It's like, whoa, where are you? What are you talking about? When we see that Black men in the education system are failing. They're put into special ed classes, being set up and being ushered toward the prison industrial complex. Yet these Black men are talking about, well, we need more feminist studies in the universities. I'm like, huh? Black men are being shot by police. Yet these Black men are walking around talking and promoting diversity. And this is one of the things that Ice Cube, love him or hate him, had a point when he put out his contract for Black America. He says that we are not going to fall for the diversity thing. Because when you say diversity, you mean everybody except ADOS, Americans descendants of slaves or Black people. You mean white women, you mean LGBTQ, you mean Asian, you mean Latinos, but you don't mean Black people. So we want to call out specifically ADOS. We're not going to fall for that, where you have white women now the biggest minority you classify. And then they come along and they say, Black women, we're going to hire you over Black men because you represent a double minority. You're Black and you're female. So we're going to bring you into the fabric of corporate America and promote you more. Go to your HR department. Who's your HR department full of? Black women. Nothing wrong with that. But use your position to the advantage of your people. Don't go into HR and then suddenly have the entire corporation outside of HR being 99% white. That's a problem with that. And I've seen that a lot. Open your third eye and see what they're doing to you. See how they're setting you up, seeing how they're weaponizing you. If you want to be a feminist, that's fine. But your goal should be on the focus of the white male patriarchy, the ones that have raped you, forced you to bear babies in breeding farms. That is who your focus should be on, not Black males who have been oppressed in the society, victimized, attacked, killed, murdered. They aren't your enemy. And as the I-ching says, when you gain these victories, Black women, take neither gain nor loss to heart. And take a step back and say, is it really a victory? Or am I being given something as part of an agenda to use me as a means to an end? Do you understand? Who are you holding hands with? Who are you marching with? If it's not with your Black man, then that's a problem. If you are celebrating these women who are married to white men, then you must also celebrate the Black men who are married to white women. There can't be that double standard. When the Democratic Party says, thank you, Black women, that is their way of doing a mind game to create that division and start that gender war. No, you thank all of us for making you the president, to getting you to that level. You don't just think one gender. What kind of crap is that? Who does that? Who does that? What president stands on a pulpit and says, I want to thank all white women for getting me here? That lets you know something's up. Don't fall for it. Understand how you're being used. And Black men, you've got to stop And you've got to start tuning into your own masculinity. Stop walking and talking like a white feminist. I can't believe the rhetoric that's coming from your corner. Using terms like toxic masculinity. What toxic? No man should be uttering that term. There is no toxic masculinity. When you start using that type of nomenclature, it tells me that you've already gone too far. You've drank the Kool-Aid. Now, I could go into where this is all going because I can tell you where it's all going because their plan is very obvious. I shouldn't even say it's covert. But you need to figure it out on your own and work together to try and counteract this plan. And right now, that's not happening. You see, the goal of the ruling elite is not, and contrary to the conspiracy theorists who don't know a damn thing about what they're talking about, they base their whole platform off George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World. That is not what the ruling elite is trying to do. The ruling elite is trying to use the ergomores to program your mindset, to download a virus into your psyche to such a degree that you will fight for your own imprisonment and extinction. Let me say it again. They want to condition your mindset, your psyche, to the point of you will fight tooth and nail for your own imprisonment and extinction. And that's exactly where we're going. Because in that way, they don't have to impose a military state. They don't have to fire one gun, use one bullet, use one laser, because they do have lasers as part of their Black Ops projects. They have more high-tech weaponry that you'll never see because they're not going to show it to you. They're very advanced. You think these tanks, these planes, these bombs, that's passé, that's old. They've got transporters, they got lasers. They got electromagnetic frequencies that if they just flip a switch will paralyze you like this. But they're not going to reveal that. But see, their goal is not having to pull all that out. They want you so conditioned as a slave, and I mean white people and Black people, that you will walk to the slaughter. No, not walk, dance to the slaughterhouse. And this presidential election, no matter what side of the fence you're on, was a perfect example of seeing the amount of brainwashing and media manipulation. They want to feminize Black men, masculate Black women, and in a sense, switch the gender roles. They have to attack Black men and use the Black woman as the proxy by which to accomplish that. I don't know how in your world, in your logic of going through slavery and being forced, being raped, watching your man being raped in the booty by a slave master, buck breaking, research it, forced to give birth to your slave master's baby, forced to breastfeed his kids, and you come out of that and jump into the white feminist movement, and then your enemy is the Black man. I don't know how you arrive at that logically. Can somebody please tell me how that logically unfolds through rationalization and reasoning? Unless you're dealing with a metaphysical force there that is programming your mind to think that these men who are the oppressed of the planet imprisoned in a entire prison industrial complex that makes money off their imprisonment, that is modern day slavery, is your enemy. Please tell me how that is. These men who are failing in the education system can't read. And all they want to put out in the media is how black women are starting businesses at a higher rate than anyone else, how they're the most educated. But leave out the fact that black men are failing. And that channel funding from the government to help these men. I don't understand that. Black men went crazy over the film Black Panther. Oh, Black Panther was great. And I tried to show black men, I said, do you understand that's an effeminized version of Black Panther? He was surrounded by the Dora Milaje and Shuri, his sister, who did all the work. He did nothing, really. That's not a masculine man who protects his nation and stands up. That was a programming technique they were using. We have to be strategic and critical thinkers. You see, the problem with the black community, I'm going to say it because I dive deeply into the mindset, is that we are symbolic thinkers. We think symbolism is progress. Barack Obama did nothing for black people. Made it clear he wasn't going to do anything. Didn't like the Congressional Black Caucus, didn't like Jesse Jackson, didn't meet with black leaders. And here you have a guy who says he's a white supremacist and he's meeting with black people. He's even putting together a platinum plan to help black people. How does that make sense? And yet people say, well, we love Barack Obama. I said, but why was there no black agenda out of his administration? He allowed the people in Flint, Michigan to drink poison water. They want a settlement of $600 million. Barack Obama did nothing to prevent that. Babies being born with all kinds of birth defects because of the poison water during Obama's administration. But we still praise him. Praise Obama. Meanwhile, you have a president who is despised by all, putting together a black agenda, releasing black men from prison. How did he accomplish that? We've got to get rid of that symbolism. We've got Louis Farrakhan, 2 million monkey marches to Washington, D.C. that accomplishes nothing. No voter registration, no nothing. And yet there's a sector that still praises Farrakhan. Praise him for what? He's done nothing. Done nothing but rhetoric, talk. But it's the symbolism. You see, we're caught up in the symbolism because they dress in a nice suit and a bow tie that means something. What we should have been looking at in this election was policies. Policies. But what superseded that, what trumped that, no pun intended, was emotionalism. Emotionalism, indoctrinating black men into be emotional. When I would talk to black men and I would say, do you mind telling me who you vote for? Well, we got to get Trump out of the office. I said, well, okay, what else? No, we just got to get him out the office. I said, well, that's an emotional argument. Can you tell me the policies that you support or you don't support? And I didn't hear anything. Men, you're not supposed to be emotional like that. You're supposed to be more logical, more strategic. But the programming is stuck in the mind. Joe Mo, do you know that Chicago has the highest crime and murder rate in the country? So push back on that. Let me see how you push back on that. Okay. So it has to come to this. Unless we see through the veil, unless we become more strategic thinkers and work together in unison, you're not going to be here. And I want you to think about that. You're getting to a situation where you have an enemy who's being very clever. They're adapting their plan, they're changing it, they're utilizing agents, controlled opposition, all types of institutions, whether it be educational, religious. And see, what I want you to understand this, it's not that, this is for Black women, it's not that they are promoting swirling for Black women, that they want Black women to be with white men. It's not about that. It's more about looking at it in terms of this. They want you to see white men as an authority. They want you to see and trust them so that you will align with what they say and do. That's really what they're kind of getting at. It's not necessarily about the interracial relationships and the swirling and all that. It's about how you perceive these white men in positions of power. Because if they can gain your trust, which they know is what their goal is, then they can easily manipulate you and get you to do things that are directly opposed to who you are and who your men are. That's really what that's about. So I'm going to go back to what I was saying before, is that you've got to have that third eye open. You've got to be awake to the agenda, to the operations that they're putting out there and what they're doing. Because if you're not, what you're going to find yourself doing is acting on autopilot and going along with their sinister plan. Because it's going to be a slow indoctrination. You're not going to see it coming. You're not going to see it coming. It's like if you're drinking something that's really, really bad, right? I take a big gulp and I'm saying this is bad, okay? But if I take little sips here and there, eventually my physiology, my biology adapts to it and it doesn't taste as bad. That's how it works. And that's how they're feeding it to you now. And you're going along with it inch by inch by inch until suddenly you fall off that cliff and you say, well, how did I get on this cliff and how did I fall off? Because you accepted one thing after another, after another, after another. There's going to have to be a putting aside of the differences, a coming together to work in unison, a seeing through the plan and the conspiracy. And yes, it is a conspiracy to eradicate people of color from the planet. And the reason that they want to get you off this planet is because you are integrated brain thinkers. You were the ones that saw through and invented the idea of the metaphysical realm. You see, they're concrete thinkers. They can only see the surface. We peered into the vastness of the universe. And we had a way of thinking, whole brain thinking, that allowed us to build wondrous civilizations, morally and technologically. And they don't want that culture being repeated again. They don't want the masses of the people of the planet and their vibration to shift, to go back to that, including white people, because they know that if white people start accepting whole brain thinking, then they're done. The ruling elite is done. And this is the whole idea of the story of Asar and the Set, where you see Set took control of Kemet. Set is that left brain emotional aspect, that Sahu nature, that animal nature. Set is sitting on the throne in our modern day world, and we have to get him off that throne. And the way we can do it is we have to go to Tahuti and get our third eye restored. And the mother of all that was Aset, Isis, devoted to resurrecting her man, Osir. That is what, perfect analogy. Perfect boiling of the frog is what they say in the South. That is the perfect analogy. You got that frog in that water, and you're just slowly turning up the temperature. The frog thinks, oh, this is a nice warm bath, and this, next thing you know, he's dinner. He's dinner. Perfect analogy. Thank you for that. I love that. Yes. So please work together. Black men, black women, white men, white women, please work together and see what's going on before it's too late. This is Kasank Ma Keperu, son of Ma Antudi. My aunt is a beautiful goddess, Heteru. Until my next video, Amen Ra.